Yeah, so for this project, I'm using hard maple. Seems kind of extreme, but it's a really nice wood to work with, and it makes a real nice smooth body on this Snowman, and it's real, fine grain, so works really well. Um, I round it all down, and then I've got a layout. I'd be glad to share those dimensions that I use, and I start out, lay out those lines, and then I use a roughing gouge, and I work mostly on the top section of the Snowman, get it to the exact size that I want it to be, and then the rest I just do in proportion. So that top one I want to get down to around 2 inches, and so I just keep using my parting tool to get the depths I want, and then I come back with my gouge, get it down to just about 2 inches before I start doing my rounding. And that top section there, that top, I have to be down to an inch because that's what I use to put the hat on. You'll see that later, to drill a 1 inch hole in. So I get it right down to an inch. So I get that, I use my roughing gouge, get those dimensions close. Then I use a skew, and I just start working it back and forth, and you can see that rounds it off really nice and gives you nice clean indentations between the different snowballs. And I want that inch at the top, and so I try to get that kind of where I want it to be, and then I can finish that top section. Once I got the top section where I want it, then again I just do my other two bottom pieces in proportion. Now the very bottom one, I don't make it completely rounded. I make, because it's going to be flat on the bottom, so I make kind of the top 2/3 of it rounded, and the bottom just slightly angled off, like it's sitting on the ground. And so I continue to do that, get them all down, take off the excess on the ends. And again, I use a combination of a small gouge and my large skew. Really works nice on this hard maple. Sharp tools again are essential. I try to sharpen every 2 or 3 of these that I do. Gives me to where I don't have a lot of sanding to do when I'm done. And so then when I get to the sanding portion, I'm using a 150 paper. I go over it with one piece, as you can see. Get any rough spots, and then I burnish it with any of the shavings that I've got. To me, that gives it a really smooth look and feel. Then I take my parting tool. I cut down pretty deep on the tailstock end, and then I slow my speed way down to where I can cut that. I use a 2.5 inch block here. I use some kind of contrasting wood, a lot of walnut. I might use Baduc once in a while. I have taken just plain wood and then colored it also, so a lot of variation here you can do, but it's a good way to use up some scraps. I wear an air helmet all the time, or try to keep down the dust, even though I've got good dust collection. So once again, about a 2.5 inch block, and I just use my roughing gouge to get it down to 2 1/4, or that 2.5 to 2 1/4, and that's where I start with this. Once I've got the block down to the diameter that I want, then I'll start to do my layout, and I'll show you that here in a second. The walnut's nice to work with, and really looks good when it's done, especially the contrast, and you get a little finish on it. And so like that, but like I said, I've used other woods. You can use anything. If you got some burled stuff, it's really nice. I just take my, those are some hats that, I just use as kind of an inspiration, or if you call it that. The hat kind of depends on how the block starts to work. I take my parting tool, and right there it's going to be what becomes the brim, and the bottom section will be what goes in the top of the snowman. That'll be the top of the hat. We'll need to do a little sharpening there on that parting tool, I think. Once again, now I'm using, I use my carbide, my small carbide turning tool here. It's one I use on pens a lot, but works really nice for something small like this. Those carbide tip tools are really nice to use and easy to sharpen. I'll take the top of that hat down as far, and I do the bottom end, the part that goes in the snowman, on the tailstock section. That way I don't have to worry about cleaning up any marks on the top of the hat when I'm done. So I want to get that to an inch, because I'll drill an inch hole in the top of the snowman, and I want that to fit nice and tight. That way I don't have to use any glue. So I take a little extra time here to get that inch just where I want it, and to get that piece done. Once I've got that done, and the rest of it's just kind of, by what the way, the style of the hat you want, how you want it to look. I guess you could be as creative as you want to be. I do some derby style and some top hat style, and I'll vary those a little bit. But the key is getting that inch done there, so that it fits in the top of the snowman real nice. So once I've got that done, again, I take the top of the top hat down as far as I can without breaking it loose. I'm cleaning up that edge there with that round carbide tip. You can't get in that down there, and so I clean it up with the parting tool. Works as easy as anything. Just kind of round off the edges a little bit, and then I'll take some sandpaper. Again, I'm just using a 150 grit on this. I do the whole thing in that second belt speed, which again is, I think, somewhere in that 800 to 1600. I run it at high speed here. That way I only have to use my variable control. I've sanded it, used a little bit of shavings again. Now I'll turn that speed way down to finish my cut through, and by cutting at the top, once you cut through, it stops. And so then all I've got to do is clean up that little bit right at the top. Don't have to worry about the marks in the bottom, because they're going to be in the snowman. And then all you've got left to do is the nose, and I use my chuck that goes on the lathe, that you normally use with your drill bit. And I use a piece of 3/8 dowel that's about, I don't know, this one was probably 3.5 inches long, and I just chuck it by hand. That's all you need with that soft wood, and it's just a plain wood dowel. And I've got, it's pretty simple. It's a 5/8 nose, and I use the piece that goes into the snowman is 3/16. Now I'll mark that, but I don't cut it down to 3/16 right away. I just mark where that's going to be. Then I shape the nose, because if you cut that 3/16 first and then try to shape the nose, you can break that off. At that point, that 3/16 is thin enough that I've snapped them off. So I've gotten to the point where I just mark it, I'll cut it just a little bit here to give me where that's going to be, and then I'll shape the nose first. Again, I'm going to use my, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so that you can see this a little closer. And I've made that mark, and again, that's 5/8 of an inch long. It's just a tapered nose, you know, the carrot, the traditional carrot that you use on your snowman, and we'll give it that look. And so I use the parting tool initially, again, just to mark where that point's going to be. That we'll take it down to 3/16. We'll just make a couple indentations to give us a starting line to work for the nose taper. And I'll reset my my tool rest here, because you want with those carbide tipped, you want to be about in the middle of your workpiece. And I'm using that rounded carbide again. It's a really nice tool, and at this point you don't have to get real close, because I'm going to use some sandpaper, and again, on that softwood dowel, you can really finish off the shape nice. So you just want to get the general shape so that it's a nice even taper from that mark that we made with the parting tool down to the tip of the nose. And then I'm going to do the 3/16. I've got a little marking gauge I use. Works really nice for getting an exact on that 3/16. And again, this is something that takes a little extra time. It's almost tedious, except it really doesn't eat up that much time. And it just works really nice, because then you can just, I drill a 3/16 hole in the face of the snowman, and it fits just really nice. You're not having to worry about special size on the hole or gluing it or anything else. And it just makes for a real nice finish. So I've got this fancy dandy gauge here, but anything that would give you that 3/16 just works a little better than a calipers. At this kind of size, and this you want something pretty exact, that gauge works really nice. So I just finish it up until I can get it just so it's a little tight. And once we get to that point, I'll take that tool rest out of the way. Again, I just use a small piece. I may even use part of the piece of 150 that I used before, because you just need that little bit on the end. And so you can do this whole project with just a small piece of 150 sandpaper, really. And once I get it sanded again, you can get the real exact taper. And I use an artist's marker, and again, I'm using a traditional orange because I want the carrot nose look. You could use anything you want, but while it's on the lathe, it's really slick. I run at a little bit slower speed, just run a little bit behind so you don't have any white wood exposed, and do it as light or as dark as you want to. And then once I've got that done, I got a little back saw that I use, real fine tooth back saw, and while it's still in the chuck, you can cut that off, and it makes it real simple. And if you can kind of see the end there, what it looks like. And so now we've got the nose, we've got the hat. There I've actually got the finished product, but you can see I drilled a 1-inch hole with a Forstner bit in the top of the Snowman, and you can just hold it there and drill with that Forstner bit. I drill a little deeper than whatever I need, actually. Drill the 3/16 hole. You can see I just do it with a hand drill and drill it by hand. It's a brad point bit for the nose, and got the nose on there. Get the hat back on, and there's pretty much your completed snowman. Now we finish them up. I use Minwax spray poly. Put kind of a semi-gloss. I'll put 3-4 coats on, and then my wife Peg, she really makes them look good. She dresses them up, and we end up with a product like this. Looks really good, and they've been real popular. So hope you got some points out of this. If I've got my contact information here at the end. If you've got any questions or need anything else, feel free to get hold of me, and thanks for watching.